Hello, everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome you to our presentation about modernizing the Port of Alaska through the magic of GIS. My name is Sharon Walsh. I'm the director of the Port of Alaska Modernization Program. I'm a civil engineer, a lifelong Alaskan, and have been working here at the Port of Alaska in Anchorage since 2014. Presenting with me today are Luke Bogus of R&M Consultants and Daniel Elroy of NSGIS. Also, though she's not presenting with us today, we'd like to recognize the input of Tina Miller, the GIO for the municipality of Anchorage. Today, we're going to show you how we've grown from a port with zero GIS capability to one with dynamic capabilities. So let's tell you our story. First, a little bit about the Port of Alaska. We can legitimately claim to be the supply lifeline of Alaska because we supply 80% of the residents of the state with the consumer goods they need and the industry and commerce centers of the state with the raw materials that they need to do their work. We often say, if you drive it, eat it, or wear it, it came to you over the docks of the POA. We're situated on a 125-acre complex north of downtown Anchorage, and while we're not so large in Anchorage, we are multifaceted in facilities. We handle container cargo, break bulk, dry bulk, cement, liquid bulk, fuel, and we are connected to the rest of the state multimodally via road, rail, and pipeline. We are a landlord port with dozens of long and short-term leases. We were established in 1961, and some of our facilities are feeling their age. So we are in the midst of a massive modernization. We're currently constructing a new petroleum and cement terminal and are in the planning stages of replacing our cargo docks. Fun fact, we're actually an enterprise department of the municipality of Anchorage, which means we work for the city. I first arrived at the port in 2014 as deputy director and as a transplant from the municipality's development services department, where I was in charge of building safety, right-of-way, inspections, and private development. Development services had a fairly robust GIS capability, which is easy for most of us worker bees to view and use. It was an indispensable tool for folks to reference in their daily jobs. So naturally, when I got to the port, I looked for the GIS icon on my desktop. What? Nothing there? Turns out the port had somehow not jumped on the GIS bandwagon as it was driving by. My initial duties at the port included managing all of the miscellaneous engineering projects necessary to keep the infrastructure in working condition. That would be the roads, drainage systems, power systems, dock structure, and fuel transfer systems. This required having a good knowledge of the design, as-built, and present-day conditions of all of these systems. So much information and so many old moldy records stuffed deep into file cabinets, stick files, closets, and the fading memories of longtime employees. So, for the selfish reason of making my job easier, I became an advocate for bringing GIS to the port so I could get to this information quickly from a map. In 2016, we engaged R&M Consultants to assess our needs and bring us into the modern GIS world. Luke Bogus of R&M took on the job. While he was getting things sorted out, my title changed to Director of the Port Modernization Program, which involved managing the design and construction of our replacement docks and terminals, which in turn is adding an immense amount of new information into our database. Luckily, Luke has stuck with the program and navigated the system development through whatever changes we and the GDIC have thrown at him. He is here to tell you how we work together with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make GIS for the POA a reality.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I'm Luke Bogus, and I'm the group manager of GIS services at R&M Consultants here in Anchorage. And we've been under contract with the port to help implement a GIS. So back in 2016, 2017, we started the initial infrastructure planning and design. And this drew on the conceptual plan we put together, composed of a user needs assessment, data inventory analysis, and functionality testing. And we also began working with the newly formed municipality's Geographic Data and Information Center to plan a port-dedicated ArcGIS online organizational account through an ESRI enterprise license agreement. As well, we started working with the Office of Information Technology to plan a web server deployment hosted in the Amboy Data Center. At the same time, we began the initial data collection, which had the goal of obtaining an overall asset inventory of port physical infrastructure and non-physical assets, such as leases and revocable use permit areas. So we used half-foot aerial imagery acquired by the municipality in the spring, summer of 2015, and captured on the order of 3,500 features through heads-up digitizing and feature extraction, as corroborated by other available data sources like port record drawings and other suitable municipal information, as well as input from port staff. We use the ESRI data reviewer to aid in quality control for feature and attribute validation. And after some additional review and a bit of database refactoring, we ended up with about 60 to 70 layers, ranging from seaside facility infrastructure like docks and wharf piles to site infrastructure like buildings and utilities, as well as operations features like those leases and urban areas. We then deployed the GeoPortAK Map Viewer using GeoPortAK's Essentials technology and documented and configured viewer functionality and tools as per port requirements, developed cartographic standards and applied port branding for the viewer look and feel, and published the data to the dedicated ArcGIS online organizational account, which was the primary data source for the GeoPortAK viewer, but also included access to publicly available third-party map services, like those published to the public by GIS, the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation Services, and others of interest to port staff. So the morning of November 30th, 2018, South Central Alaska experienced a significant seismic event. A 7.1 magnitude earthquake about 8 miles north-northwest of Anchorage. Fortunately, there were relatively few reported injuries and no fatalities. But unfortunately, there was pretty severe widespread property damage, estimated at about $30 million in the Anchorage area alone. However, the port was able to leverage facility condition assessment functionality that was already in the system planning stage to support earthquake response. This included assessment dashboards, data-driven reports, and interactive maps, all of which went to help us explain to FEMA our requirement for recovery funding. Also in 2018, the port applied for and was awarded a federal port security grant to migrate the system to higher security IT infrastructure, including intrusion detection system and security incident and event management components. This came about in part because in late 2017, the port was included in an ESRI comprehensive cybersecurity review of Anchorage's municipal GIS managed by GDIC. This resulted in recommendations to plan for a higher level of security for the port GIS due to port critical infrastructure and secure sensitive information, as well as the port being designated as one of the 17 commercial strategic ports in the U.S. National Port Readiness Network. This work is currently ongoing and planned to be completed later this summer. With that, I'll hand it over to Daniel Elroy, CEO of NSGIS, to talk about some further enhancements to the system.
Thank you, Luke. I'm Daniel Elroy, and I wanted to tell you that in 2019, the port's GIS infrastructure was reaching a level of maturity, both in the infrastructure and the data, that the port was able to start looking at the next steps in building up an asset management system. So two of the most important components of an asset management system are GIS, which it already had, and document management, which it did not have. NSGIS was brought in both because of our software, NSG Lease Manager, and our experience with SharePoint, and the fact that our software connects SharePoint to ArcGIS. And together we worked with the port to tackle the first level of asset, which is the land asset, the property asset. As you recall, the port is a landlord port, and a lot of its revenue comes from just leasing land. So together we replaced an Excel and file server-based way of doing things with a GIS map that has all the current leases, as well as expirations, as well as historical leases. It helps the port collect and manage over 150 data fields that pertain to leases. And that in turn allows the port to be able to search for leases based on location and attributes, but also because of the tight linking to SharePoint, also search by document metadata and even full text search inside the contents of documents, and then retrieve the documents directly from SharePoint. All this is also available to management for presentations through a dashboard that shows at the 10,000 foot level what the current conditions are with regards to upcoming lease renewals and occupancy rate and so on. In 2020, the port went on to manage the infrastructure aspects of its asset portfolio by bringing in another software, NSG Project Records Manager from NSGIS and SharePoint, to replace digital, but also a lot of paper documents, a lot of paper design files, as-built, that were probably put in that file room by these fine gentlemen, maybe as far back as 1961, when Sharon said the port became organized. All that has now been replaced with a GIS front-end way to search for documents by location, by attributes, by content, by metadata, and retrieve them directly from the document management system. So as Luke said earlier, the grant is allowing the port and actually requiring the infrastructure to be moved from cloud-based systems like ArcGIS Online to all on-premises secure installation here in Anchorage, consisting of servers, SharePoint, ArcGIS Enterprise, GeoPortAK Essentials, and NSG. And with that, we've really brought you up to speed on where we are today. And let me hand over to Sharon to talk about the future.
Thank you, Daniel. So what's next? First, we want to expand our use of field apps, get the maintenance folks on task with our shiny new high accuracy GPS equipment and iPads. Next, capture the data from our newly constructed petroleum and cement terminal, get it into the system so we can easily manage the maintenance and operation of this new $210 million asset. And third, capture the institutional knowledge of our well-experienced staff before they move on to their next adventures in life. Our ultimate goal, to fully implement a spatially based asset management system with operational and budgetary data available from the map at the click of a mouse. In the past 5 years, we have made significant strides towards building a full-fledged asset management system. We have a proper document management system that's tied to a robust GIS. This will help us maximize the return on the substantial investment we are making to modernize our facilities, and will help us keep the port systems running smoothly and goods flowing into Alaska for years to come. Look for a report on our success at a future ESRI user conference. Thank you very much for your attention, and please contact any of us at the email addresses provided on this screen.